Flin Flon, Manitoba, of course, is the home of the Flin Flon Bombers, and general manager and head coach Mike Reagan, kind enough to join us on the Western Pizza Guest Hotline. Coach, is the heart rate slowed down a little from that Canada game earlier today?
Yeah, that was exciting, actually. We just had finished practice and came in, and they were down 3-2, and I was like, oh, my God, 6 minutes left and that. But, yeah, I was really excited. The boys were cheering pretty loud in the dressing room, so a lot of fun.
So, in all honesty, if I had told you this game was going into overtime, would you have taken Mitch Marner to score the game winner?
We were actually just talking about that as it happened, to be honest with you. And it's funny because I said, if I didn't think that I'd need to change practice time for a quarterfinal game, but it almost came to that point, right? So, hey, awesome finish, gets the heart rate going a little bit, and, I think adds to the excitement for the next game.
Jordan Binnington, surprised at all in his performance? He made some stellar saves in the third period.
Yeah, I mean, the guy just seems to elevate his play at the most crucial time. So, it's something about certain guys that are able to do that, the ability to, raise your level of play. And thank God, we need that, definitely.
You've had the opportunity to go with Hockey Canada and get behind the scenes. How much pressure is there? I just couldn't imagine, no matter any time you've got the Maple Leaf on your chest.
Well, I think it's a huge honor, first and foremost, and you just don't want to let the country down or Hockey Canada down. And, you get to meet a lot of fantastic people being a part of Hockey Canada and that. So I think that there's a lot of pressure. It doesn't matter, at what level you're playing at. I think, once that jersey goes over your head, I mean, obviously as coaches, we don't have that, but, that Canadian tie or whatever behind the bench, I mean, you definitely feel the pressure for sure.
I remember a number of years ago, and this is aging me, but Colton Gillies comes back to the Saskatoon Blades after playing at the World Junior Hockey Championship. And I said, what would you say about the experience? And he said, I wanted to make sure that I took the right thing away. And he talked about the development stuff that he could take away, the things that he learned from coaching. Is that similar for a coach behind the bench trying to take the right things away?
Well, I think every experience is different, to be honest with you. The first time that I got to be a part of it, I was a video coach, and I mean, you don't want to let anybody down, and so I don't know if I fully enjoyed it as much as I probably should. Obviously, after we won gold, it was amazing, but the next experience was a little bit easier. You knew what to expect and that sort of thing. And then the third time, I was a head coach in 2017, and definitely felt a lot of pressure there, but we were able to win gold, and thankfully we had a great group of guys, and I still look at that picture of all the guys, and pretty amazing to think that you get to be a part of that.
Mike Reagan is the head coach and general manager of the Flin Flon Bombers. We're talking Hockey Canada, but now we're going to talk about Mike Reagan of the Flin Flon Bombers, who coached his 1,000th game, 19 seasons with the Flin Flon Bombers. Like, this is incredible stuff. Does it ever get old going back to the rink and maintaining the enthusiasm that you had from day one years ago?
Well, I don't know. I think, like you were talking about pressure, coaching for, Hockey Canada or being a part of Hockey Canada, there's a lot of pressure in this community. It's such a storied franchise, historic, and, a lot of our Quebec players have, kind of said that it's very similar to, the Montreal Canadiens, just on a different scale, obviously, but our fans are tremendous when you're winning, but they're going to let you know when you're losing or you're not up to snuff. So I think that's what keeps it exciting for me. It's hard to believe that it's been this many years. I'll be honest with you. When I first got the job, I was thinking, can I survive 3 years? And I think I told this story before on maybe SJHL at noon. Dwight McMillan was the coach of the Weyburn Red Wings when I started, and he had kind of joked to me that I was going to be the next, Dwight McMillan of Flin Flon, and I not a chance. And I by no means am I saying that I've lived up to what he's done or anything like that, but I never thought that I'd be here as long as I have and reach the milestones that we have here. But it's because of a lot of people in the organization that's given me this opportunity, and a lot of the staff that I've worked with have been tremendous, and it's been a real enjoyable ride.
Do you remember game number one?
I don't remember game number 1, but I remember the first 5 games and just kind of how things went. I think we won our first game and then we lost 3 in a row, and you could feel the heat. And I started to get a little bit nervous. I'm like, geez, are we going down that path? I thought I had changed kind of the culture a little bit at that point, but I tell a story that we lost 3 in a row and people would avoid me on Main Street. They would literally walk across the street rather than talk to me, and then we actually won 4 in a row, I believe, and the same people that were walking across the street before were coming and saying, I knew you could do it, and that sort of thing, and I believed in you right from the get-go. And it's kind of funny, I'm thinking, 2 weeks ago you walked across the street to avoid me, but I mean, I love being in a passionate community that obviously loves their Bombers.
Well, the barn packs, when the Whitney Forum is rocking, I don't think there's much better place on the planet to watch a hockey game going. What are you most proud of with what you've been able to do in Flin Flon thus far? Because not only are you raising a junior hockey team and a program and running it at a high efficiency level by virtue of course, you leading the league yet again in points and have already clinched a playoff spot, but you're also developing people who've gone on to some great things.
Well, I think that's a big part of it. Obviously, you want to win hockey games and that, but when I first kind of took over the organization, it was about moving players on and changing the culture and giving ourselves a chance to win year in year out. And we've had over 40 guys get Division I scholarships, and a lot of those players I'm still close with now, and really proud that they're kind of they're a big part of turning the organization around as well. If you have players that have success and they move on to the next level, obviously it's a lot easier to recruit, and we were able to do that early on. And I think about guys like Michael Young, was one of our first guys to get a Division I scholarship, ended up being the captain of Nebraska Omaha, and that's a pretty good Division I school, and so he was kind of waving the Bomber flag for us, and obviously that was a big part of us being able to get other guys that kind of took the road a little bit further into the bush, so to speak, and continued to pave the way for other guys. So I think, back to your question about what am I most proud of is obviously the ability to move guys on and help them with their careers, but also, to be consistent and be in the playoffs year in, year out and be a threat.
Mike Reagan, the head coach and general manager of the Flin Flon Bombers. I know you kind of maybe said it in jest, but maybe it's true as well. The people avoiding you on Main Street when things aren't going well, and then your best friend otherwise. But the level of respect that the community of Flin Flon has for Mike Reagan, is that something that Mike Reagan realizes? Because I know there has to be a lot of trust when you're operating a hockey organization, when you're representing a community, and it has to go both ways. But do you understand that level of admiration that the community has for you?
I don't think so. I mean, I'm just just like everybody else in Flin Flon. That's the way I feel anyways. I'm, grew up here, just another Flin Floner, and I get it hasn't changed me at all in my opinion, and trust me, there's people here that don't appreciate the things that I've done, or maybe like the way I've done things as well. So it's not all sunshine and rainbows or anything like that. I mean, there's some people that there's negativity that you hear, and that, I mean, that comes with the territory. So it's kind of one of those things. If you're not willing to accept that, then it's probably the wrong business that you're in.
Well, little birdie told me that the community of Flin Flon is going to be celebrating you this weekend for having coached that 1,000th game behind the Flin Flon Bombers bench. Even though that game was a while back, did you do anything in that game or on that game to commemorate the 1,000th game, or were you even aware of it?
I wasn't aware of it, to be honest with you. It's actually my first assistant coach that kind of notified me or kind of got the ball rolling on it. He had texted me. Clayton Quinn was my first assistant coach, and we were teammates when we played for the Flin Flon Bombers. So it was kind of fitting that he was my first ever assistant coach. And he had messaged me, and he's like, Regs, how many games have you coached in? And do you know what your record is? And I kind of thought it was strange at first. I'm like, why is Quinny, messaging me right now? And I kind of thought I knew I was above 900, but I didn't know that I was, approaching 1,000. I thought that was maybe next year or the year after or whatever. But obviously it means a lot to come from him that he's the guy that kind of, recognized it first, and it means a lot to me, because like I said, he was my first ever assistant coach, and I wouldn't be sitting here today without Clayton Quinn for sure.
How has the game changed from that first game with him to where you're at now?
Immensely. I mean, the game, the players, the expectations, how you go about everything. I mean, we were faxing game sheets in after games back then. There was, the video is completely different. How you prepare your players is completely different. The communication with the players, just everything. I could talk for hours about how different it is, but in saying that, I'm kind of one of those guys that, like, if you don't change with the times, you get left behind. So it challenges you every day, and each and every year you're challenged in by the players, and you just got to figure it out.
It's funny you mentioned the faxed in game sheets. I remember a certain number 11 of the Weyburn Red Wings standing outside the office before that game sheet got faxed in, and if there was a blank, all of a sudden number 11 would appear on the score sheet. I don't know how that happened. I'm leaving names out, though. Your team's in a great spot. You've clinched a playoff spot. Things seem to be rolling well. 8 wins in your last 10 games. You're happy with where your team's at, I'd assume?
I think we've came a long ways. I'll be honest with you. I didn't think we'd be in the position that we are this year. Going into the season, our leading goal scorer, coming back had 9 goals. Joey Lees, who's our leading point getter right now and goal scorer, only had 5 goals last year. We lost a lot of very good players last year. We had a very young team last year. And going into this year, we knew that we didn't have superstars, so to speak, that we were going to have to do it by committee. And, we got off to a really good start. We were 6-0, and then we lost 6 straight road games. And, all of a sudden you're 6-6. And since then, we were, I think, 28-4-1-1, I think, since then. And, there's been a lot of growing pains early on, but, we're an extremely young team still. And so we really didn't think that we'd be in this position right now. We're kind of looking at next year, which is our 100th anniversary year. We really thought that going into next season was kind of the year that we would, be a force and that sort of thing. But, when you have, I think we currently have 18 players, 19 and under. So we're doing it with a young team, and it's a credit to them. The buy-in's been unbelievable. We knew we had some good players, but I didn't think that we would be where we are right now.
So obviously that's a pleasant surprise. Is it harder to stay the course? I know we're past and beyond January the 10th, but obviously believing your group goes a long way towards team chemistry and character.
For sure. I think when we approached the January 10th deadline, we kind of thought, geez, we got something here, so let's not push every chip into the pot, but we pushed a lot in, and we were able to acquire, obviously, 3 really good players from the Humboldt Broncos that we felt, again, I go back to, we were the 3rd youngest team before the trade deadline in the league, and we felt like we needed to get a little bit older, so we moved out 2 18-year-olds and brought in a 19 and a 20-year-old to give us more experience, and then we flopped our goaltenders, a 20-year-old for a 20-year-old. So we got a little bit older at the deadline, but we were kind of sitting there going, geez, maybe we're closer than we think we are. So let's give ourselves every chance here to win. And a guy that I really respect told me years ago that you don't get to pick when you're going to win. And I know we haven't won anything right now, but, we felt like we've got to give ourselves the best chance. And, this community's been starving for a championship. It's been since 92, 93. And, I was only in grade 7, I think, when the Bombers won the last time. And I was at that game, and it was a big, big deal in my life, and probably a big reason why I became such a passionate guy about the Flin Flon Bombers, and kind of led me to where I am today.
Obviously, having 1,000 games in, you've got the experience to answer the question. As fans, when we are looking at trades and trade deadlines and all that stuff, we see a bunch of names on a piece of paper that might be moving around. You're obviously dealing with people. How do you, and have you ensured that you find the right fit? Because the wrong player coming into the dressing room at a tough time can really go ahead and change your culture in a hurry.
Oh, for sure. I think that's the most difficult part of the job. Like you said, you're dealing with people, and the older that I've got, maybe the more emotionally attached I've got to the players, and you look at them completely different. When I was young, 27, 28 years old, I was maybe a little more ruthless, where it was like I just looked at them as hockey players, and our job was to build the best team that we could here. So maybe the personal side of things was completely different back then. Now, like I tell our board and our billets all the time, I know it's hard on billets when they lose their billet or their player. It's harder on us. Like when we've got to bring in a kid that's been very loyal to us and passionate about the organization, and we have to make a trade. You feel for that kid, and it's probably the hardest part of my job. But bringing in guys is exciting as well. And I think for us is you got to do your homework on the character of the kids. And a lot of times we'll touch base with a former coach or someone that knew them, and a lot of times we're making sure that we're doing our homework on the kids' character, number one, and then obviously the ability of the players, important as well, but I think the character is the most important thing.
You mentioned the 40 NCAA Division I scholarships, which is fantastic because it's awesome to see kids achieve their goals, which is one of the goals that they have. Has that marker been moved with the changes between NCAA and junior hockey in Canada as far as you've seen thus far?
100%. I mean, the landscape of hockey's changed so much over the last 2-3 years, and I think it's going to change even more over the next 2 years. I feel bad for the players, over the last couple of years, because a lot of the guys that we got 3 years ago were looking to get Division I scholarships, and then with the change of major junior guys being eligible and the transfer portal and everything like that, I mean, it's completely thrown those kids' plans in a vicious cycle, and now they're trying to figure out where do I fit in, and I feel bad for them because we all don't know just quite yet how this is all going to shake out and that, but I think that a lot of our players, they're going to end up in good spots, and I think we've got a good reputation where there's a lot of schools out there that want to get, players that have played for us and probably look at our program as doing a good job of developing not only good hockey players, but good people. And, at the end of the day, we're trying to find our guys, the best fit possible so that they can further on their career and their life. There's life after hockey, and we want to make sure that we're helping them out in that aspect as well.
Coach, before I let you go, of course, you're on the stretch run. You've clinched a playoff spot, as I mentioned. You've been in this position before. How do you make sure that your team, A, stays sharp, and B, peaks in time for the playoffs?
Something that we've talked about a lot, and gone back on past experiences on maybe some things that we've done well, and then some things that obviously we'd like to improve on. And we're trying to get over that hump. We've been to the league finals, I think 3 out of the last 4 years or 5 years, and we're starving for a championship here. And we've talked to a lot of different people that have had experience winning championships, and maybe how can we do things a little bit different and that. So for us right now, it's about getting healthy, staying healthy, giving ourselves the best chance to win in the playoffs. We know we're going to be there. Rest is just as important as, finishing off the season strong here. We got 10 games left, and hopefully we're peaking at the right time, as you mentioned.
Coach, again, cannot appreciate and thank you enough for doing this. Congratulations on 1,000 games that you've already surpassed. Here's to another 1,000 more or so at least. I know, I'm throwing it out there right now. No pressure.
Yeah.
Coach, appreciate you doing this, though. And again, for what you've done for youth up in the Flin Flon area and that have gone through your program, it's sensational. You've even gone as far as helping broadcasters find pizza at a Flin Flon pool hall late on the night when we're trying to broadcast a final. So thanks for all that you've done.
No, thank you. I appreciate it. And I just want to thank everybody that's helped me, get to this point in my career.